Mr. 1950, how are you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good, man. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. We seems like we tried this once or twice before, and so I think the first time, I think you were a little under the weather, so we rescheduled.
COVID.
Oh, okay.
COVID,
and then the other time was my internet was was acting funny. It was great all day, and then I actually ended up having to totally rebuild my network. I've got one of these. It's an Eero, and I've never had any issues with it. It's like it's like a meshed whole home Wi-Fi thing.
Yep.
And the Wi-Fi comes in my house in the basement where my studio is, because I'm not messing around with any janky stuff when I'm online. And so I'm like literally right by the router, and stuff just starts going awry. I had to literally recreate a new network and delete the old one. And so that's never happened. So anyhow, we finally meet, and glad to have you on. So I discovered you. I think I had kind of seen you around a little bit, but you didn't really catch my attention until I was supporting my bro Ike Ogiamian, who did a show on your channel, was one of your panelists.
Yeah, good dude.
And yeah, great dude, man. Him and I have a show. We've got a show together on his channel called Getting Ish Done on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Matter of fact, so this interview we're doing right now, this will air that morning. And so that evening, I'll be on with Ike, and it's a productivity kind of show.
I checked you guys out before.
Yeah, kind of intellectual kind of thing. It's always great. So if he was into it, so I went over there to support him, and then you and I connected, and then you asked me to come over to do a panel. And so, of course, I did. And it's actually when I met JT, as in pocket watching with JT.
Yeah, JT's a beast. Yeah.
Oh, he really is.
Yeah.
I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, and we had a really good conversation about strong black fathers. And now, and this is interesting because he's married. You're married, right?
I'm married to the game. Yes.
You're married to the game.
Yeah.
I'm married. Ike is married. There's a number of folks that are in the space that are married. And it's interesting because I think it would seem that it's like, well, why are cats in the space that are married? Why do they want to be in this space? Isn't that just for, single guys that are complaining about women?
A lot of men complain about women because they're without. And they don't, self-reflection is probably the biggest problem of men. Understanding there are better men out there because a lot of men worked at it, right? And so I'm not talking about looks, I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about the insight to understanding what it takes to be successful. And I ain't just talking about with women, right? But a lot of men whole focus is on women, so they fail. Focus should be on you and how you build your foundation and how you deliver your product to the world. But a lot of men make it about women, so they fail. And that's why they complain, because their priorities are messed up.
Now, one of the familiar slogans or phrases that I see on your content is the last traditional man on the planet.
Correct.
Now, what do you mean by that?
I believe in man, woman, kids, family, married. I believe in the union. I believe in how life was intended to be, right? So for me, I'm old school, and that's why I go by Mr. 1950. My name is Akeem, but I go by Mr. 1950 because the way of living, the style of living then was very strong, and men understood. This is what we do to make a living. This is how we raise our kids. This is how family is supposed to be. Women understood their role in that man's life, and now the priorities are wrong. The goal used to be married. Now the goal is to be happy unmarried, without any type of commitment. So, I'm a man of tradition. So everything I do and talk about normally is in a traditional sense. So, yeah.
Now it's interesting because using the phrase 1950, it's that sort of conjures up. I mean, I can just imagine. I mean, I can imagine scenes out of movies when someone is trying to, criticize someone for being a knuckle dragger. What is this? The 1950s? You want me?
Yeah, that's why I use it.
And pregnant too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's what we want though. Why wouldn't you want your wife to have your babies, right? So and so this is another thing is we're trained to believe what was working was wrong, and so it was working, and it worked. Grandma was a great woman. Grandma used to be a great woman. Grandfather was a great man. Why did we have to change? Why did we try to fix something that wasn't broken? Well, you do that because of a thing called inclusion. The people that are unable to be married and be in a system of marriage, they want the same rights as married people because they're without. There's you have to have tools to be married. That's what I always tell women. You have to have skills. Men need tools, women need skills. The tools for a man is understanding how to use your tools. What are we fixing? How do we fix them? Women are different. They're resource driven, meaning they understand their role in that man's life, and I'm going to create resources for this man in order to live, right? So they know what the things they need to do. They need to have skills in order to do those things. You're going to have to understand that tradition is passed down from grandma to you. And so what happened was grandma started getting younger and younger and younger. You got 30, 31, 32-year-old grandmas. So now you're talking about 35-year-old grandmas teaching their daughters how to do things with no experience themselves. You know what I mean? So the generation's gotten weaker over the years, and fathers too. The transferable information from grandfather, the father to the son, it's no longer there. And so now you got young kids raising young kids with blind, and most of them, a lot of them don't have fathers, some do. And I ain't just talking about our community, because most people, when they think of fatherless kids, you're talking about our community. I'm talking about all over the world, every race. I talk about men and women. I don't talk about, let's not break it down to race. We're talking about men and women. This happens in every community. I mean, you got China in school, elementary and high school, now going to be teaching masculinity classes because they feel like that the generation of men are getting weaker. You know what I mean? They're not talking to women because they know men lead. So guess what? Let's get our men stronger. Let's get our men prepared, and let's get this process started over again. Because obviously, social media killed it. Liberals killed it. A lot of different communities that want to respect killed it. And they're trying to abolish the nuclear.
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
They're trying to abolish the nuclear family. So we got to be careful, and we got to do our thing in order to do that. So that's why I say I'm the last traditional man, because I don't stop any punches on how I feel about what a man's role is and what a woman's role is. I challenge anybody to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's I'm an academic. I mean, I can't talk like that. not not at work. It's tough because obviously it's true that men and women are different. I mean, that's a fact. And the more that people try to shirk that, or try to change what it is and how we are different, and trying to say that we're the same. Jordan Peterson frequently brings up
really good.
I'm sorry.
Jordan Peterson is really good. I like his stuff.
Oh yeah, he's killing.
Yeah.
He frequently talks about the Scandinavian. I want to say it's the Scandinavian countries where they have really kind of done the most in the world to create an egalitarian society, and they have done as much as possible to create a sort of parity in the gender roles. So the little girls, hey, blue's okay too. The little boys, pink's okay too. As far as the kinds of toys that they have their kids playing with, they try to normalize that to be sort of the same thing. And what they thought was going to happen from doing this all the way up and incentivizing women to choose the kinds of jobs that traditionally men want, stuff like engineering, the STEM stuff in particular, they were doing everything they could do to try to incentivize that. But what they discovered was that when people are truly given freedom and choice to do whatever they want, they double down on nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually the numbers went the opposite direction that they thought they would go. So you can try to force people to do things that they don't want to do,
mm-hmm.
but they're not going to do what they don't want to do. They're going to do what they want to do. With freedom, people are going to tend to choose the things that they are evolutionarily wired for. And
mm-hmm.
men and women are different, and it's okay that we're different. Notice I didn't say anything about capability. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Women are just as intelligent as men are.
Or
it's
even
not
more
an issue
sometimes.
of capability. Yep. And sometimes more, right. It's
mm-hmm.
not a case of that. And of course, there are outliers. So there are women, it's a minority, but there are women that are interested in engineering, in the STEM stuff. So it's not to say that that doesn't exist, but for the most part, we are totally different. And we need to be different because our kids need different. They don't need two people that are the same. They need two people that are different.
Totally agree, man. And see, that's where a lot of the issues come from, because there's a lot of people that don't believe that we should carry ourselves with being different. They don't want to discuss that we're born different genetically. Science means nothing, right? DNA means nothing. Oh, it is what it is, So I mean, you know, like I said, I'm the last Christian because I'm a real advocate of it. I'm a heavy supporter of man, woman, kids, and that doesn't mean it. I'm a hate on anybody else's lifestyle, but there's nothing wrong with promoting and being proud of that one. You know what I mean? And then also the way of living is easy for me when it comes to tradition. I mean, everybody understands their place. Where I like order, you know, I like structure, you know, I like all that. So that's why I go by that, and that's why I talk about it.
Yeah, and it's crazy that certain things are controversial. Why is that even controversial? Really? Like, it's controversial to say that men and women are different? It's controversial to advocate for a family that has a man and a woman to help the children, to develop all of the, you know, the multifacets that, look, if you're a duplicate, if you're the same, you're not necessary.
Exactly.
Is this really controversial?
You're right. You're right.
Ridiculous.
I didn't put that together, but you're 100% right. You're necessary if it's somebody like you.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing that's interesting about folks that are in these sort of red pill, manosphere, whatever you want to call the space. We used to just call it common sense.
Yeah, I'm not in neither. So let me say that right now. I'm not in the manosphere or a red pill guy. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, what's interesting is much of what you say. I think people would identify with it in those spaces, and I'm not. I don't really call myself red pill or manosphere, or, I mean, I associate with folks that are in those spaces.
Oh, me too.
You know, but that's, you know, those are sort of terms that we're sort of stuck with. But and there are several aspects of you know, material that comes out of those spaces that is not stuff that I identify with or that I agree with. But for the most part, it seems to me that it's at least positive for men to have a place where they can go and they can talk, even if it's just a vent. Even if it's just a vent. I mean, nothing constructive happening. You know, women don't get criticized for, you know, for their, you know, several avenues of just going and talking, and nothing necessarily comes out of it. It's not necessarily productive, but hey, they're able to do that. I think it's also healthy and good for men to be able to do that. It used to be we had some places that we could go, black men in particular, where we could go to have conversations, frank conversations, talk about things that were going on in our lives, maybe ask for some advice. You know, a disproportionate number of us didn't really have a strong relationship with our dad, and so we may actually need to like reach out to some other brothers to try to sort of patch some holes in all of that.
I was blessed. Yeah.
Me too.
I had my father and my grandfather in my life.
Well, my dad didn't know his dad, but he made sure that he was the kind of dad that he wanted. You know, he grew up in poverty and all of that. He didn't even like talking about it, you know, because he just sees it like, hey, this is what it was. But the thing is that, but the thing is that those are the kind of stories that should be celebrated.
Oh yeah.
You know, the functional stories, the boring stories.
All the boring stories. And I totally agree, man.
Yeah.
I love old school tales. I like older men speaking about it, and I learned a lot from them. And I learned a lot from It's how they process things and how they lived. And, and like then they went to bars and barbershops and, they went and had poker nights, they got together, you know what I mean? That's just how they got out. But I definitely agree. I think men should have a space to speak, but I don't my whole thing is let's not have a space to trauma bond. Let's not be so emotional out here and make everything about women. And, there's literally men on this planet that think men live for women. We get dressed up nice for women. We work extremely hard to buy things for women. Everything in our life, a lot of these men believe that's what we do for women. It's amazing that they really believe that.
Well, I actually, with the way that things are designed and how we are so heavily marketed to, I'm surprised that there are any or very few, I'm surprised that there are as many men that don't just live for women. And because the whole thing, you buy a nice car so you can impress, the girl. You buy nice clothes so you can impress the girl. Look at the way that things are marketed to do that. Like if you have this gold chain, or if you have this look, they're going to pay more attention to you. You even go to a car show and the car shows have, models, showing off the cars. It's not even subtle what it is that they're trying to do.
Exactly. They were definitely trying to overplay that part of it too. Exaggerate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I heard you say something about liberal, as far as liberals seeking to sort of dismantle the nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
You come across to me, in most of the content I've seen, you come across to me as being pretty conservative. Would you?
100%.
Would you? Okay, all right.
Yeah. So, and the reason why, I can speak on it. That's what you're going.
Sure.
Yeah, I think conservatives care more about the family structure than the liberals do. I don't even consider myself a Republican, but I do consider myself a conservative thinker. I'm definitely not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. I think the liberals do a really good job at fooling a lot of poor people into believing they're helping them. I think the liberals do a really good job of playing a race card and race bait us against each other instead of trying to unify us. I do think the Republicans do a terrible job in overlooking a lot of racist things that do go on. So I can go on and on about either side, but the reason why I'm conservative is because of the family structure and how I believe that they're really pushing for families to be together. And all this other stuff is just, the liberals just pallet it on. Like we just supposed to accept everything and anything, and we can't have an opinion about it. And, I don't believe any of that. So that's one of my things.
Yeah, it's something that's interesting is what used to be, okay, so what we call conservative today, things have moved so far left. Everything has moved so far left that what we call conservative today is really kind of what they used to call classical liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I
like that analogy. I really do.
Yeah, and it's so. It used to be that you could be a Democrat and you could be pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have these. What is it?
I agree.
Yeah. So-called blue dog Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
These pro-life Democrats. They don't exist anymore.
They got rid of them because they wanted you to stand on one side. It was like you can't believe in that and have inclusion for everyone. Because I believe in, I don't believe in inclusion for everybody. I think there's people who believe in equality. Equality would never exist. No matter how many laws you pass, there's always going to be somebody that can't be included, either because of some reason. It's unfortunate, but that's just the life we live. We're human beings, and we take care of the strong and we jump on the weak, right? And we got enough money in this country to feed everyone. Why don't we do it? The reason why we don't do it is because you gotta have people afraid not to work anymore. Because people knew that they was gonna always eat and had a place to stay, would they work? You get what I'm saying? Like, would they work in society, or would they just wait on checks and eat food and live at home every day and not have a functioning society? So people don't understand why we have homeless. Well, we got homeless because if they fed everybody in this world and they gave everybody a place to stay and there wasn't no more homeless anymore, what would be the incentive for you to work? To have more than others, maybe? How many people is going to have that drive? So the country we live in is a great country. I believe in America, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't, just because I bought a new car, I like the interior in it. Or I like the headlights. I wish it didn't do this, or I wish it did that. It's a nice car. I drive it. I'm cool with it. It's good on gas. But that doesn't mean we can't complain about the inner workings of it. It's a justice system that I don't believe in. It's been broke since the beginning of time. It's never been fair, right? If they wanted fairness, it's easy to fix, right? What's easy to fix is voting on the system in place. They got legislation to pass laws, but what about the people in there enforcing the laws? Right? Like I always say, police brutality can be ended if they allow American citizens, third parties, come in and have the power to hire and fire people that's getting complaints. If that was the case, then we would have no more police brutality, because what would happen is that the shield couldn't protect. We can go on and on. So I don't want to go all over to the thing, man. But
No. I like this. So stay here for a second. One thing that I've been quite frustrated with, again, I'm in the academy, and there's such a strong neoliberal thing. And, the neoliberal thing is it's the progressive, it's the diversity and inclusion, it's all of that stuff. Now, I did a show on my live stream program called Thunder's Thoughts, and the name of it was, Does Diversity and Inclusion Work for Black Men? Now, the resounding answer to that question, as you didn't even have to read watch the episode to know the answer. The answer is no. Okay, and no, it doesn't. The reason it doesn't work, diversity and inclusion is the new affirmative action. Affirmative action, in its inception, was specifically designed to help black men. It was specifically designed for black men, and it was to solve a particular issue that the country created. But what ended up happening is, because of Title IX, because of Title IX, some language in there, women were able to be included as minorities. Now this will sound controversial, but women are not minorities.
Not at all.
Okay? Women are better than 50% of the population. That's not a minority. Okay? So so forgive me when I say,
you know what they're trying to say is they're including them in that because they feel like they're a group that have been oppressed.
well, I understand that. But what happens next is the real oppression.
Mm-hmm.
So you take something that was designed to help black men, and 84% of the recipients of that program, white women. Now, when they did their math, they did their research, they did their study, they found this out, they doubled down. They didn't back up from it. They doubled down because that wasn't really offensive to them. It wasn't offensive to them.
Yeah, it's
that
not going to be.
Instead of helping black men, you are by a tune of 84% helping white women.
Mm-hmm. And it's an outrage, right?
And diversity and inclusion is nothing but affirmative action reborn. It's the same thing. It's just they are enfranchising. They are helping other groups. There's a longer list of groups that are being helped, but notice that black men and boys are nowhere in the discussion, not helped at all by any of these programs. Do you realize that there are 20,000 fewer black male faculty members in the academy than black females? And the reason that is that the institutions are incentivized to hire black females because they get to count two. They're a woman and they're black. And that
Correct.
Incentivizes them to create more of a disparity, to create more of an imbalance than already is present in our communities.
And this is what pits us against each other, though, right? Because if you said that, it'd be like a black woman would be like, but men, see, they don't include black men. See, black women think they're their own island. I love my sisters, by the way, but they believe they're their own island. They believe they should have different rights than black men. So it's every other culture. It's just white people, Asian people, Latino people, Indian people. It's supposed to be black people. But so a lot of black women don't identify themselves as that. I'm a black woman. It's different, right? So what happens is that it gets us into our community and our culture as the divide that is there. And they group us in with every other man and says, okay, well, men run the world. They get paid more than us. You see what I'm saying? So they go to that instead of going into the black man. And that's where the disparity goes. And this is why we have issues. I think we could do a better job as men at controlling situations. And I think we as black men need to do a better job at leading and being strong leaders. I think we are very weak right now. It's very difficult for me to watch, but we're very emotional. We're perceived as being overly aggressive. I mean, we're allowing the narrative of what they perceive on television to be the truth. There are so many great black men in this world, but you will rarely hear them discussed. But you will hear more about black on black crimes and black men leading that than you would black men going to schools, lowering the suspension rate, black men being great fathers in communities and taking on a lot of responsibility. You won't hear that.
It's boring.
So it's boring. There it is.
It's boring. Yep.
It's boring.
Yeah, ain't nobody. Right? Nobody wants to hear about that. They'd rather.
Yeah.
Look, we have an unhealthy obsession. We have an unhealthy obsession with drama, and our country has a sordid history of um, of watching, and as if we have some sort of addiction to the mutilation of black men's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We have this it's just a grotesque, because even when you can show that when you have these situations where unarmed black men are killed by police or whatever, you can show that there's a white counterpart that to those circumstances. It always exists, but
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that it's like an uncontrollable urge. It's like we can't stop watching. And then the 24-hour news cycle, and then there's another angle. Hey, look, somebody had their phone, and look, we got this other angle. Okay, now that's going to be for another week of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, look, somebody from on top. Look, you can really see them, you can really see them from that angle. It's just like, come on, man. It's like we're watching freaking replay in freaking football game.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Like, when are we gonna stop glorifying that crap?
Mm-hmm. We gotta, and I don't blame hip hop, but when people say, oh, it's a big part of our culture, well, why? Right? So I want you to really look at other cultures. Right? And I'm not saying their cultures are better than ours. What I'm saying is we can learn something from each other. Right? We need to learn something from each other. The tradition is kept in the Asian community. You're going to keep the tradition in the Asian community. And everybody's going to blame everything on slavery. Oh, we're broken because of slavery. Now, mind you, that has done some damage. It's done some true damage. But at what point are we going to say we have to reverse our trauma? Because we call hip hop what? Hip hop comes from pain. Hip hop comes from a culture of oppression and the culture of being beat down and coming up. We turn everything into gold. Soul food, right? We talk about soul food and how we took scraps and made it great. We took music and we turned this music around. So when are we going to turn the narrative of what slavery's done around, right? Into let's do something like this. How about we do this? How about we can learn from the Asian community on keeping the tradition of the black family, right? These are the rules in the family in the 50s, the 40s, 30s, and do you know how the black family was looking in? Wonderful.
Yep.
Before segregation, it was wonderful. So what does that tell you? We need to be more self-sufficient. We need to be more conservative thinkers, taking care of our family, understanding what it takes in order for us to be successful, man, woman, in the household, raising kids. We got, artificially assimilated kids coming in the world with one parent. Why are people why are we allowing people? We know what science has told you in regards to raising kids. Without a father, this is how your child is going to be. The pure lie. Without a mother, this is how your child is going to be. So how it was created was for man and woman.
That's right.
You got artificially assimilated kids now, grown, just raised by the mother. You know what I mean? Like, and this is what I'm saying. Like, how is this acceptable to do this? But then you get mad at me that I'm pro-life.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, it bothers me. But brother, I tell you, we can learn a lot from the Asian community. We can learn a lot from even Latino community. I mean, they're not the richest community, but the father can work in the fields for $3 an hour, and he come home and have a submissive wife that follows his directions, and he leads the family strong. Why is that? We need to learn. We need to learn, and we need to say that. We need to be okay with understanding that we're just not the perfect group. We've created a lot. We gave a lot to America. We gave a lot to the world.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, we're not perfect. Let's clean up. Let's self-reflect. Let's take over our communities again and not allow this emotion from these men. And what I mean by emotion, it's not just the crying. Why are we so emotional when people say things to us, right? Why would I risk my livelihood if somebody called me the N-word and I bang on them and go to jail for that, right? Do I teach my kids to aggressively react to what somebody don't know you say? No, you can have them respond, but there's a way of the educated response. And this is what I'm saying. I'm looked at as someone who's old school, right? That's how Martin Luther King and Malcolm X them, well, I'm not my brother Malcolm. I was raised Islam, but I'm just saying the way that they were taught was to make sure you understand that you need to respond in a way of outsmarting it. You come with aggression, we come with aggression. We don't need to come with aggression off top. You get what I'm saying? Like this culture, this movement, this Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of that stuff, I like the sentiment. Black lives do matter. But if you read the fine print, if you peel back the layers of their mission, never was about black people.
Nope.
Never
That's
was.
facts.
And they used the black struggle because they know what? They know that if you use the black struggle, I'm going to get really sensitive on every other race to help in your protests, your financing your nonprofit, all these things. We're going to help you for black people, not knowing in the back end, you ain't helping no black people, man. They're actually in the mission statement. It said just to abolish the nuclear family.
That's right.
So you know what? After I read that, because I read the fine print. So after I read that, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I like the sentiment. Black lives do matter, but their organization itself, no, refuse.
I interviewed Nicholas Payton, the great jazz trumpeter, and we talked about BLM a bit. And one thing that he said that I thought was interesting, and it's something that I've brought up frequently since in other conversations. Yeah, the sentiment, Black Lives Matter, he actually thinks that the statement doesn't go far enough. It's such a low expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Black lives are beautiful. Black lives are awesome. Black lives are creative. Black lives are, powerful. Black lives are, impactful. Black lives, right? Why not something that speaks to more of the positive things that you find in it? Now, I understand that the feeling is that, well, we're just struggling even just to, be allowed to exist and just to have just a basic level of respect and
in whose eye?
At least with right.
You see, and that's why I've always lived in. Why do we complain about the Oscars? Why do we need their validation for what we do special?
That's
right?
Big facts right there.
Why is it that we complain when we're removed from businesses? Okay, they don't want our business.
Right.
Let's go get our own. Let's do our own business.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can't. We can't always be validated by other people. So we seem like we're the only ones that really care about that.
You said the thing about slavery. It definitely did damage. That's fine. And I always say, that got the ball rolling. Definitely. But what really did us in was forced integration.
Oh, 100%.
Forced integration, because after slavery, our families had been repaired. I mean, we were married at a 85% rate, low
Doctors, lawyers.
Black Wall Street, and there were dozens of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you wanted to do the integration thing in a level, balanced manner, then white folks would have had to move into our neighborhoods too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what their agenda was. The agenda was to spread out this center of power. I mean, we were too powerful together. Look,
Exactly.
The last stat that I saw on the black dollar, and this is like something like, this might be 2017 or 18. That's the latest number I could find. $1.7 trillion black folks spend each year. $1.7 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And of this $1.7 trillion, we know that our dollar only lasts 6 hours in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that we don't have financial power. It's that we just doing all this spastic stuff, buying rims and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
but you're 100% right though, and you know what really hurt us though. The I forgot what bill it was, but it was we couldn't purchase houses. It was the, what do they call that? The Housing Act of 1960 something. I forgot what it got, but yeah, I don't know if you can look it up. But so what happened is that this act made it so we couldn't buy housing. We couldn't buy property. And the ownership, because if you can own property, if you own property, even then, like, it was like your family was set, right? You had the ability to do a lot of things. So when you got 85% of the country buying it, and your peoples can't, you become reliant on them to pretty much do everything. Like, oh, I gotta rent something from you, I gotta buy these crops from you, we become subservient to the power. And for property to housing, I think it's the Housing Act of 1960 something, I don't know.
I think it's 61. I'm looking here.
But
I think it's
know what I'm talking about,
because
right?
in 68, because in 68 they changed the laws to outlaw some of the discrimination against home renters and buyers.
Yeah, they changed the laws,
landlords.
but it still did not. Yeah, it still was not. And this is what I'm saying. And so that I felt like that affected us more than damn near anything. I mean, the integration, the forced integration, because you're right. It's like spread us out like peanut butter, right? We then thought that, so I always use the white man ice is colder, right? That's what the perception of it is. Because if you have a glass of ice cold water and I was selling it and the white man had an ice cold water, you would buy it from the white man because you believe his ice would be colder than yours, right?
Yep.
So, and this is what the thought process of it is. So soon as we got forced integration, what did we do? Oh, we wanted to live in a community because that meant that was something. That was the status. Now if we dress like them, oh, that's more status, because that was all bad before. We couldn't do that before. We can do this now. We can do, and it became a phenomenon to us to be a part of them, be a part of their culture, be a part of what they do. But like our thing, we couldn't do it. We are, black man, whatever we did was just ghetto and hood. We can't do it. And this is why we don't do business together, man. That's why one thing I love about this space, we work together on here.
Yep.
We may not agree, but we work together on here, on the YouTube and the space.
I'll tell you, because I started collaborating with folks in particular in the Black manosphere. Oh goodness, was it about a year ago? Maybe it's been about a year. I've been involved in the space, and I'll tell you, I can't think of a time in my life where I was more embraced and folks just reaching out. Hey man, let's do a show. Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, let's, just that. And it'll be folks that we don't necessarily have a whole lot in common, and we don't necessarily agree, right? But there's a mutual respect, and I can say my stuff, and I've never felt judged or anything for whatever my positions are. So, I'm a Christian, and that's not necessarily a popular view in this space.
Yeah, I'm Islam.
Yeah. So, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I talk to, it doesn't matter at all. I talked to Jap, Minister Jap. Our conversation was called, "But is the straight, free-thinking black man protected?" Oh, that's
pretty good, because it's not.
No, again, see,
it's not.
Say, I have this. I figured out this strategy of naming my videos. Questions that are obvious, the answer is obvious, but but you still got to click it.
You're right. That's good strategy.
It's obvious. Yeah, no. The answer is no.
Do black men cheat? You know what I mean? Like, question mark. They all cheat. Do men cheat? How about that?
Right.
I get you.
And so you were talking about looking at other cultures and saying, hey, what are some things that we can learn? And one of the issues that I have with this whole multiculturalism business, it's not that I don't have an issue with it because it sought to bring different cultures together. I think that's a noble cause. I think that's a positive thing. However, the problem with it ends up being that there's this sort of normalizing of everything. So it's like you look at this culture, there's obvious issues with the way that they're doing things, but you're not supposed to say that's really not a good thing, because then it's like it's racist or it's biased against their culture or it's all of that kind of stuff. So you're not supposed to be able to say the thing that you said about Asians and upholding tradition and hold that up to a certain like comparison to other things and say, look, this is kind of the gold standard for this. This is kind of a positive thing, right?
Everybody can learn something from it.
Right. So we should be looking at this like, man, I need to figure out, I need to dissect this thing and figure out how I can get around this, Right. So
you're right.
But that's not the sort of emphasis of multiculturalism. It's to basically just say we're all the same. All culture is equal. And I'm sorry, it's just false. It's just not true. And one other thing that you were saying, the black on black stuff, the black on black crime thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, now this is one of these things where, yeah, it's a high percentage. It's bad. And hopefully we can do something about it. However, it's also the way that thing is constantly said on certain networks as a way to ignore the real issues. Well, hey, black on black crime, black on black crime. Well, check it out. White on white crime is something like 85%.
Yeah, because they live right.
How come we don't hear them talking about white on white crime?
Well, you won't hear about it because you gotta understand too. Whoever you're around you're gonna have crime. If black people live around black people, white
That's
people
right.
live around white people, so they're gonna have crimes. Asian on Asian crime too. They exist. It doesn't matter what race, but the thing is, when they say black on black crime, they always associate it with murder.
Yep.
We're saying crime, not necessarily murder, but they think it's murder. But I do question the Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives did matter, why aren't you holding it down in Chicago and these big major cities just having these problems? You know what I mean? If it really mattered, right? Or is it that you only use it when you can get the police officer with it? You know what I mean? That's the only time you can make some money off of it, right?
Well, it's that, and it's also I have this theory about this. What I think the 24-hour news cycle, especially when a white cop has killed a black man, I think it is what's the term I'm looking for? It's artifact. It is an artifacting from the dead black body on the master's porch. It's the slave that ran away. It is strange fruit. It is the body still staying up in the trees, and you're not to take them down because they're for an example. They're to show. It's another form of the emasculization of black men. And though I think that they believe that they're just trying to show, hey, look at this atrocity, but the reason why we're so drawn to it and we can't look away is because of this history of this. We expect to see that. In many ways, that sort of expectation to see black men in a certain state is why it's hard to find a black comedian that hasn't put a dress on.
Hard to find. We know Dave Chappelle hasn't.
That's right. Shout out to him. Yeah. And shout out to him for not bending the knee, by the way. I did a show on Thunder's Thoughts again called Secure the Bag, Then Speak Truth to Power.
That's pretty dope.
And it was about Dave. But the thing is that I wasn't saying that this is the process. Wait until you can't be canceled and then do something controversial. That's not what I was saying. I was saying that if you wait until you have the bag, it's not likely that you're going to do anything meaningful. Right? Because what does the Bible say? What is it? Trust in the little things, and then more will be given, right? And if your whole life has been cowering in the corner, brown nosing, kissing butts, making sure that everything that you said, cohered with the rules and didn't make, if that was your existence, and then you hit the lotto, you think you're going to be speaking truth to power?
Oh,
nope.
Not at all. And I believe in speaking truth to power.
Yeah.
I believe in speaking truth, even if it's uncomfortable. I think it's a part of manhood.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see, the thing about Dave is that even before he had money, he was speaking out on these kinds of issues.
I'm sure.
He had given up the $50 million, and he's being interviewed by Oprah, and he's he's railing against men with dresses on. You know, the whole, you know, they was trying to get him to put a dress on. He's like, I ain't putting a freaking dress on. Look at this history of making comedians put dress on. That's straight out of minstrel shows.
Yeah.
Cats don't realize that. They don't realize this, and they don't realize how offended that they should be when they see these black men in dresses, these comedians in dresses.
I loved Martin Lawrence for years, the Martin Show, and just looking back at it, it was riddled with it. You know what I mean? And it was like a normal thing for us to laugh at that. And I didn't know the effects of it then, but I still like Martin Lawrence, but that's just that aspect of it. Aspect of it I didn't like. You know what I mean? Just like I don't like Tyler Perry.
And I love Jamie Foxx and virtually all the cats that put a dress on. I mean, they're funny dudes, but the thing is that, and this is to Kevin Samuel's point.
I'm not a Tyler Perry fan though, but I just want to say that.
Yeah, no, right. See, so here's the thing about Tyler Perry. Let me go to a tangent real quick. Obviously, a super creative, hardworking dude. He's got a great story. He was living out of his car and all of that stuff, and hit it big and all this. He's got $1 billion, studio. All of that stuff is all wonderful stuff. He's been hiring black, folks, and not always just like stars, but like giving people a shot, resurrecting people's careers. I mean, he's had his hand on a lot of stuff that's been positive. My thing is, there's something. It's like there's something psychologically wrong with the guy. I'm sorry to say this. Why do you keep putting the dress on? It's like, okay, I could see like in the beginning, you're like, man, I got this character. It's kind of a commemoration of my mother. And, she's just, she's funny and I can really do this, and I still don't condone it. I still don't want to see dudes putting dresses on, especially black men. But you could kind of be like, okay, all right. But then it's like after the like 6th or 7th movie or whatever, and then you coming back with like like freaking plays and stuff where you putting the dress back on, and it's like, dude, I mean, and this guy's a good actor. I mean, what is it? Was it Mr. Deeds? And then what's the Family That Prays? It seems like there's a couple other ones. There's like the kind of action joint that he did.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, those are all good movies, and he didn't put a dress on.
I think a lot of it too is he's a male feminist. He portrays men as subservient and weak, and not that bright, not that smart. We're never men of power. Rarely happens. Men of power, women, any traditional sense, you normally don't see Tyler Perry. It's not traditional. You know what I mean? None at all. And that's just what he does. He's got fame off women. He is like Derek. He's like Derek Jacks of producing. I'm dead serious. Really look at his work. He's Derek Jacks of producing. Yeah. He refuses to show us some love. Let him see a movie. When we gonna see a Tyler Perry movie that comes out and says, you know what? There's a lot of good men out here. How about you look in the mirror and find out? You get what I'm saying? There was no movie going to come out saying, follow your man. Like follow your husband. Right. Submit to your husband. None of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Back to Kevin. Kevin has said this thing where, because we make too many excuses, and that is like, well, I had to play the game, or else I wasn't going to get promoted. Hey, I'm in Hollywood, and if I don't put a dress on, they're not gonna promote me to the next thing. if I don't, play this role where it's all of the typical stuff. I'm eating fried chicken. I'm spitting watermelon seeds. I'm doing all of the stuff. I'm shucking and jive. But hey, if I don't do that role, I'm smiling big with the sweat rag all the time. Jiving, right. But if I don't take those jobs, then I can't get promoted. See, at some point, to Kevin's point, at some point we have to say, you know what, we're not doing it. Okay? And unless you start respecting us, we'll do our own thing. We just go and do our own thing. But I don't know. It's just like that. We are
just
so
watermelon seed. You're right. That is so funny, but yeah, I can see it. I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
It's just like we need them to pat us on the head and say, "Good boy."
Validation.
So bad, and it's like that's got to go away. I'm done with that. I don't need and for me, I'm not conservative or liberal or whatever. I suppose I'm more conservative in that I'm pro-life, I'm family values, all of that kind of stuff. So that's definitely the case. But I'm more kind of black nationalist, and this is an interesting kind of returning to when I was young. I loved Malcolm X. I read his book.
Great man.
And watching the movie, with Denzel, and I just he had that swag factor, right? And it wasn't like, I frequently have said that our women, it seems like they disproportionately choose swag over substance. That's not what I mean.
Yeah, swag is overrated though. For women,
right? But see, he had swag, but it was because of the substance. Like when in that movie, when one of his guys was taken to the police station, and he marched them brothers in front of the station, and he's doing hand motions and stuff, and they was like, I was like, oh snap, that's what I'm talking about.
And he went in there and
Let's
demanded. He went in there and demanded that he got released. You're not going to do this to our community. We're going to be here until this is taken care of. Didn't wait for a response. He went right in line and stood strong.
Yeah, and it shows that you don't have to play their game. You don't have to play their game. Now, they don't want you to know that. And they gonna make examples of some folks.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't have to play their game. And I'm tired of playing the game. I'm done playing the game.
Yeah, I've been done. I'm with you, man. We on the same team of being done.
Yeah,
I'm done. I've been done for a long time, man. That's why I speak freely. This is why I try to encourage young people to understand what life is like and understand what mom, dad, kids, the nuclear family is like.
Yes.
Not a lot of men to speak on. It's a lot of content creators that encourage men not to be married. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
not to be involved with single mothers. Like, so you tell me a man can't find a value in a single mother that's on his program, and this is where I have issues. Right? There's some good single mothers. Like, let's just say, for example, Kobe Bryant was celebrated. Kobe's gone. So his ex-wife now is a single mother, right? So you men out here telling me that she's not a good woman because she's a single mother now, right? So it's very amazing to me how there's other communities that take on kids from past relationship all the time. And as a man, you understand, like, hey, this is the situation I'm involved with, then this is the situation I want to be involved with. And you got to take on that challenge just like everybody else. You need full autonomy. But like, it's being discouraged now. I mean, yeah, I agree that women should be more responsible on their decision making. They should be married before they even have kids. But if it didn't work out, let's just say the husband was abusive, she had to leave this man. You met her 5 years down the road, and these kids is, 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old. Why is she a bad woman? Because she had kids by a man that decided to do some bad things to her, and she had to get out of the situation.
So this is an interesting topic, and I asked, I had Minister Jap on, and we actually dug down into this, and I asked him what it was that he meant by single mother. Now, he actually doesn't mean someone that is either a widow or is divorced. And I think part of the problem, so he's really talking about what folks refer to as baby mamas, folks that never were married.
You talking about, yeah, there you go, wedlock, born out of wedlock.
Right. And now, this is to his point. If you are a man you're a young man in your 20s, you have options. And if you're trying to develop and build wealth, it may not be the wisest decision to select someone that, wasn't married and had a kid.
I can agree with that.
Now, because and I asked him in specifics. I think part of the challenge is the terminology, and I think
because I was just about to say that. Yeah,
that's part of the problem. And another problem is that when you're making arguments, you have to make arguments with generalities. And so the general thing may be true, but you always can find outliers and anomalies. You can always find folks that don't fit whatever the trend is. And so I would argue that there might be somebody out there, I'm sure there is, that would be a good person to consider for marriage, even if they weren't married and had a kid. They made a mistake when they were young, whatever. But they learned from it. You can look at them and tell that they, that they're not engaging in certain kind of behaviors. But unfortunately, I'd have to agree that disproportionately, it's not the case. It's as if the decision to engage in that behavior prior to marriage and to prioritize and to be willing to give someone a kid that you didn't even that you weren't willing to marry, because something that seems to be on the rise is a lot of women are like, hey, I'm just going to have the kid, but I didn't really want to marry this guy. It's like, really? Is that what we're doing?
It's out of order. I would definitely agree with that, but I will definitely say this.
Okay.
I 100% agree with the sentiment of young men, but there's older men.
Right.
And there's older men, and let's be frank, a lot of these men, they're missing out on a lot of their blessings because they're looking for someone and something that they will never find because they don't have it. They don't have what's needed to control the situation with a woman. They can't lead a woman. They don't have the game to take care of this woman's mind. They don't have any of that. So by lowering their pool of success, So those women are in there with the kids, they're in the pool of all women, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to eliminate a group of women and say, this is the only group of women now I can talk to, top echelon women. That's why a lot of these men are unhappy and being violent when a woman leaves them, because they're just thirsty and desperate. The mental aspect of it. Like I'm a successful man, and I don't talk about money when I say successful. I'm a man who controls his own environment, a man who understands himself, a man who understands what I want in life. I'm really good. I can really, I'm a great talker, great communicator. There's so many great things about me that this is what comes with me as being a great man. And I understand that. I'm a top echelon type of man. I'm not a high value man, or I guess what certain people say, right? And the reason why I'm not is because I don't have that mind frame of what a lot of them are trying to teach men. You know, I'm a man who values character over a lot of things. Like any woman with me is going to be beautiful. This woman don't need to be beautiful to you, but she's beautiful to me, and that's all that matters. And I think a lot of men chase mirages. They chase the distance. They think this is what a woman's supposed to look like. This is how she's supposed to be shaped. This is how she's supposed to act. She's supposed to fall in line and do these things. It doesn't work out for a lot of men like that, man. A lot of men are going to lose out on great opportunities because they want to listen to people who I believe couldn't hold a match to game. You know what I mean? They're 365 days is Halloween for them, because a lot of them wear masks. They're not like that in real life. You know what I mean? So I'm not talking about jab or nothing like that. I'm just talking about in general when we talk about the teaching men. I think you teach men how to fish, right? You don't teach a man to eat for a day. You teach a man how to fish. You teach a man how to eat for a day. You know, you don't put men in a box where some men are not strong enough to think outside of that box. Give them options. You know, I do coaching sessions with men all the time, and I try to give them as many options as I can. I try to make what they want in their life a reality, but be manly with it. You know what I mean? So I hear some of these things, but I think it's very damaging.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I think, again, when you make general arguments, it leaves out, it's not just, everybody doesn't fit whatever the general argument is seeking to prove. And I think that, I think there can be more nuance and more effort to sort of pull out some of that stuff. That's for sure. Yeah, I had one more question I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
And so we talked a little bit about politics, and one of the issues that I have, now I've been a third party voter for the last probably, maybe 20 years or something at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the issues that I have with the Democrats is, it seems to me that they think that black men are low value,
mm-hmm.
low budget. Okay. Because if you consider the get your booty to the pole promotion,
Yeah.
you know, that thing is so ridiculous that it looks like it's a satire or something, man. That thing could be like on living color or something. That stuff is so ridiculous, but that is real. That joint was real. How little they think of us. I don't understand.
Yeah, man. They think of that because they view us as thinking of ourselves like that. When you look at hip hop, right? When you look at how we publicly treat our women on social media, when they look at how we're portrayed on social media and television, how easily we can take money for our success. And if they feel like if you don't respect yourself, why should we?
Do you think it's the majority of us? But do you think it's the majority of us that are behaving in those ways, or do you think it's 5%? Okay,
I think it's 5% because I think it's 5% in every race. Like when you see hillbillies and what they call white trash, right? That's 5% of their community. Latinos, they got the Mexican gang. What do they call them? The cartels and the Chancos, or something. I forgot what they called it, but they it's the bottom 5, right? And then you go to Asians, they got the same thing, and then you got the black folks, right? There's a difference between the N words and black people, right? So there's a difference, and so this is what I'm talking about. Our community is portrayed through the lenses of the N word. So we're not all that. That's not all who we are. And so that's why I'm saying when they see us, they can't identify the two because they see the skin color. They think, oh, we're all the same. No, just because I like Tupac, don't mean I believe in Tupac's philosophy. Just because I listen to some hip hop music, I don't mean I listen to it around my kids. There's a difference, and they put us all in the same box. So when they perceive us that way. Because that's the $1 billion corporation is sold. It's a $1 billion industry. It's the biggest coming from the black community, other than athletes, right?
Yeah.
So when you got those two going, what do you think society's going to see? They're going to see an athlete. They're only going to be publicized the Pac-Man Joneses and the, and all these, the Mike Tysons of the world, like all these people that have emotional, mental problems being portrayed and, looked at on television as being bad people. You're not going to see a lot of the good brothers, taking care of communities, teaching kids, and
it's boring.
It's too boring, like you said. And so they portray us like that. So that's why they have videos like that, because they know that we not going to really say nothing like that. We're not going to really. We're not going to fight back. We only fight back when, right? We fight back when we're nationally killed on television.
But what's amazing though is they have this narrative that says that, well, hey, we're the ones that really care about you black people. We're the ones that, and if you try to argue against that and even show evidence by showing stuff like this booty to the pole stuff, or obvious stuff that the Democrats say and do with regularity. You were saying something earlier about, if they wanted to fix, something to the effect, if they wanted to fix a particular issue, they would have done it.
Police brutality.
There doesn't need to be anybody hungry. If they wanted to fix that problem, they would fix it. And to that point, let's talk about the chokehold. Okay. Now, after, we had, some rather high profile instances of black men losing their lives, and you got the Black Lives Matter stuff, going. Then it's like they start talking about, hey, the chokehold and X, Y, and Z. It's like, look, you Democrats are in all of the positions of power in these places that you're talking about, complaining about the chokehold. You could have taken the chokehold out anytime you wanted to take the chokehold out. And you probably had research and evidence that somebody
100%.
brought you to support why you need to get rid of the chokehold. But they wouldn't do it.
There was a bone. That's all it was. It was like, okay, so we're trying to reform the police department. As soon as Biden got in, he went ahead and took away HBCU money. He's all the things he's promised the black community. He says, we have bigger and better things to worry about. Oh, we got 2 black women as vice president, though. She says nothing of substance, especially for us. And so this is what I'm saying. You've been bamboozled. You've been bamboozled into believing that this man was going to care.
But is she really a black woman?
I heard
say black woman.
Exactly. In the essence of what they're trying to do, that they said she is, but I heard she was not. But I mean, at the end of the day,
You're right.
She's from the area I'm from, the Bay Area. So she destroyed that area. I have no love for her when it comes to politics.
Well, it's interesting because she was sort of the boots on the ground, actually doing the work that the '94 crime bill facilitated.
And she destroyed the Bay Area. She convicted more black people in her term, black men in her term, in longer prison terms than any other DA, head DA person in the city of San Francisco and the Bay Area. So this is what she does.
Well, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for your time and energy.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to future collaborations.
Oh, 100%.
It's good to have folks like yourself that have some different kinds of ideas, on this Black YouTube thing. I think it's important. And one thing that I'm trying to create with my platform is, I want to bring folks together that think differently. And for us to have conversations real conversations, meaningful conversations. And it's okay if we don't agree. It's okay if we
100%.
bring out a different if we bring out a different nuance. Unfortunately, one thing I've been rather dissatisfied with as far as the Academy, is though unity in diversity, that's what university means, where you're supposed to be all housed in the same place, and you have different disciplines and different views, but you come together and you talk and you try to figure out what are the things that are in common.
Right.
And that's not what happens. With regularity, that is not what happens. Matter of fact, it so seldomly happens that they have to create special initiatives like interdisciplinary studies and things. Now, why do you need the term interdisciplinary in a university? Isn't that redundant? But it just shows you that the mission of the university, I think, is in trouble. So it's so I go outside the institution so that I can have these meaningful interactions. And I appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate the invite, man. I enjoy your platform, man. I check you out all the time. I put the notifications on you, man. I normally don't do that to too many, but you're the ones I push the bell on to make sure I get notified when you do come up, man. So I will
Well,
give
I
you some
appreciate
praise,
that,
man. I think it's a handful of people that I got that on. I don't like no notifications, but I'll get here when you come on.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. God bless you.
You too.
All right, bye.